Hello friends and fans of Pigcake. I decided to do back with this series where I just decide in audio format to talk about things that are happening in Magic, talk about whatever it is that comes to my head that might be interesting to you guys. As I've realized, the podcast format is a very popular one. People like to listen to these on the way to work. They like to listen to these while they're cleaning the house, doing chores, taking out the kids, going on a walk with the dog. So might as well give you some knowledge while you're at it, and hopefully inspire you to be a better person and to be at least a little bit better at Magic. Not necessarily a better person. Being a better magician doesn't necessarily improve your Magic. Actually, it doesn't improve your Magic by any means whatsoever. It's the opposite. It makes you a worse person. So I'm gonna do these whenever I feel like it, maybe somewhat. I feel like I should stick to a schedule, but more likely than not, I'm going to end up coming up with one and then 2 months later coming up with another one. But either way, at least you have this one, right? So this one, we're going to talk a little bit about just a topic that a couple YouTube magicians have mentioned in their videos in the past couple months. One is Craig Petty. Craig Petty is this magician that I used to watch all the time in Wizard Product Review when it was called that, from 10 years ago almost. I think they've done that. They have a new set of people. They still have David Penn, which is one of the magicians that started off with the show, but now they have two other guys. They're great. It's a great show, but I like the original one with Craig Petty. And Craig Petty now has his own YouTube channel where he talks about things. He does reviews. He rants. I like the rant episodes where he rants about other magicians. There was one that he did recently about this guy that came up with a product called Triple Helix, which was quite interesting because the guy was on the Magic Cafe and they were going back and forth. That's the drama that I live for in the Magic community. That's what I want. I want more of that. I don't want this passive BS. I want more of that beef. Somebody leaves a bad review. The creator of the effect gets all on his high horse and says, hey, you have no right to leave a bad review. And then Craig goes on and says, I could do whatever I want, bitch. You can't tell me what to do. I live in America. Not really, but we all abide by, I guess, those rights. But yeah, so that was Craig Petty. He's dropped a video on this sort of stuff recently, and also Spidey Hypnosis. If you're not familiar with Spidey, we had a nice conversation the other day over the DMs. I slid into his DMs because I wanted to put something on his channel. I ended up putting it on my channel. It was a nice bit of a mentalism bit that I put out, I think the last video, if I recall correctly. It's an interesting plot. Max Maven doing the little finger cover bit. If you watch the video, it's going to make sense. But he also put out a video talking about magicians and crediting and tutorials and all that stuff. And I know it's a dead horse. We're beating a dead horse with a stick. But at the same time, it's something that's still pervasive in the Magic community and something that affects me. It affects me because I have to read these things. I have to go on Facebook and the Magic Cafe, and my eyes are damaged by these magicians who have no idea what it is they're talking about, who have absolutely nothing outside of Magic in terms of a personality, in terms of themselves. They're only magicians, and they hold their precious effects so closely that they refuse to acknowledge the fact that somebody else might have come up with it independently. So Spidey comes up with this video where he's talking about not coming out tutorials that are of somebody else's selling, meaning that if somebody else is selling it, he's not going to come out with it. If somebody else has an idea that's similar to it, he's not going to put it out. And all the stuff he puts on his channel is 100%, which is as it should be, right? It's 100% his content, I meant to say, and that's how it should be. Right, that's exactly how it should be. And me personally, I like to give credit where credit is due. I don't teach anything that anybody is selling. But at the same time, I do teach other people's stuff. I do teach stuff from older books, Expert Card Technique, Magic for Dummies. I do teach stuff from Marlowe and Vernon and, other old magicians that I looked up to when I was younger. And of course, the beacons, the pillars of Magic. I do tend to teach some stuff from theirs from time to time. I don't teach anything that anybody else is selling. And I think I've maintained a good common ground where I credit enough where credit is due. But I still teach stuff that people are going to find relatively interesting. But Spidey is talking about how he taught a trick. I think it's some sort of open prediction recently. And Raj Madok, which is a friend of his, reached out to him to say that, hey, man, I put that out. I put that out forever ago. I'm going to let you teach that on your channel. It's all right. It's okay. I understand that, which is a great thing to do, because usually what tends to happen, which is what has happened to me rather, and has happened to other magicians that I know, is that somebody reaches out, or not even reaches out. They make a post on Facebook. They make a post in the Magic Cafe talking about the BS of this individual, that they came out with this ridiculous trick. They're teaching for free on their channel. They're shitting on magic. They don't care about the art. And this is something that they came up with. And they write this long, rambly post on how they're killing magic and how they're taking food off of their table and how they're saying these ridiculous things. But the truth of the matter is that independent thought is something that is well alive in magic. Independent thought is a foundation of every art form, whether that's music or arts in itself, or magic even, or anything that you call an art. Independent creation is something that happens. It's something that when you come up with an idea, it's entirely possible that somebody else has probably come up with a similar idea, or somebody has come up with something that's going to be related to your idea. Why? Because there's only a finite amount of things that we could come up with as humans. One of our tragic flaws is that we think that we're different, but we're really not that much different from one and another. We think we are, which is the problem. So when it comes to magic, this happens all the time. You have people coming up with a trick, you have another person coming up with a trick, then there's a whole quarrel, there's a whole beef, and there's this whole unnecessary, you're taking food off my table. Now the problem with that is that yes, there is theft. There are some people, some bad apples that ruin it for everyone, and they steal ideas and they steal thoughts, and they listen to somebody and they copy their idea. They rush to market it because they want to be the first one that get first dips on it. That does exist, unfortunately, and they ruin it for the people that aren't doing that. They ruin it for the people that are well-minded individuals that are trying to come up with their own stuff and independently came up with an idea. Now, obviously, if you come out and you market it first, you did get first dips. You did get the first opportunity of putting it out on market, and it's fine. That's okay. But at the same time, you need to acknowledge the fact that your shit stinks. You take painful shits. What I mean by that is that it's perfectly possible for somebody else to have come up with that idea. You're not the only person that has probably thought of that. And the fact that these people end up writing these long-winded posts about things like this, where they rant and rave on how people that teach on YouTube or in other different forms of media now are stealing their material, they don't take in consideration, because it would be a nice little bit of a hit to their ego, the fact that somebody else could have come up with an idea that they came up with. They can't comprehend that. They can't think in their feeble, insignificant minds that there's a possible chance that someone else could have come up with that idea too. They can't. To them, that's impossible. What? You're telling me that you found a way of getting those aces to the top and to each poker hand and then subsequently back on top of the deck? You're telling me you also came up with that? There's no way. I'm the only person that's capable of that thought, my friend. There's no way you thought about that. So we're going to have to figure this puppy out. We're going to have to figure it out, because I don't know what the solution to this is. There's always going to be this conflict. There's always going to be this issue. And it boils down to ego. It boils down to magicians having nothing else that's going on apart from their magic. And that's the only thing that they could really call their own. They don't have anything else outside of it, whether that's maybe a meaningful relationship or maybe something else that they enjoy, another hobby, another thing that they manage to get income from. And unfortunately, it comes from that. So the only thing that they have to themselves is this method, which really is irrelevant. That method is irrelevant. So that's the only thing they keep to themselves, and they want to guard it as much as they can. Now, the fact of the matter is that, yes, I've come up with stuff that I think has been my own, and it's been done before. It's stuff that's been out there in the magic community forever. That's something that I acknowledge. And yes, it's probably happened with me that I've come up with something and somebody else has independently thought of a similar idea to mine. That's completely expected. Now, would I be upset if somebody comes up with the exact same thing with the exact same jokes and the exact same phrasing and the same delivery? Yeah, I would be, because at that point you are copying. But there's a limit in terms of methodology. When it comes to methods, you're going to have people that are going to come up with a similar way of doing things. And that's completely expected. So if somebody comes out with something that's similar or even the same in terms of methodology, that's fine. That's okay. I completely acknowledge that. Why? Because it's understandable. We're all humans. Yes, there's an infinite amount of effects, but at the same time, we're limited by our feeble human minds. We're limited by the fact that we all think that we're the only ones that go through heartbreak, and we have all these problems that we think are unique to us. And because we're all human, and because we all have the same human traits, we all are prone to coming up with the same things. We're all prone to feeling the same way, and we might think that we're unique, but again, that's just our ego. That just boils down to our ego. So the only advice that I could give you as far as this particular rant that Spidey inspired me to make, just because of the video that he posted, and also Craig Petty because of the video that he posted as well about tutorials and about teaching and about magicians and crediting and all that stuff. So the only thing that we could do is to just keep looking forward, come up with your stuff, give credit where credit is due, but be realistic about it. Nobody is going to look at a Xerox pamphlet that you came up with in 1979 that you handed out in the lobby of a Holiday Inn. Nobody's going to look at that. The 10 people that you gave that particular pamphlet to, they're not going to have that anymore. All right, we're living in 2021. Just because you were the first to put it in print, and again, in a fucking basement of a Holiday Inn, doesn't mean that idea is uniquely yours. It just means that you were the first one to put it in print, and you just wanted that nice accolade of being able to say, yeah, I put that to market first. I put that in print. That's mine. But that doesn't matter, because it's entirely possible that somebody else has come up with that idea, and you need to realize that. You need to realize that. And the moment you do, I think you're not going to be a better magician, but you certainly are going to be a better person. I'm always saying that we need to acknowledge the fact that we only could see what we're seeing because we're standing on the shoulders of giants. I'm always saying that. I truly understand that when it comes to our methods and our magic and our effects and the things that we learn and the things that we do when it comes to this God-forsaken hobby, it's because of the others that have come before us. There's no avoiding that. But what bothers me is what I'm calling the old guard. This old guard of people that are stuck to their methods, and they're stuck to this weird sort of mentorship idea because it's what they got when they grew up. They grew up in this weird sort of circles where magicians, they hazed each other, they made fun of each other, they had these little stupid rituals. They grew up in a time period where it was only mentors, because you only didn't have necessarily access to books, you didn't have necessarily a lot of access to tapes and video, and that was rare. So you had to learn from somebody, and they want to hold that through. But unfortunately with the internet, it's very easy for somebody to mentor someone from across the world and to mentor thousands of people at the same time. That's entirely a possibility. So it's a hard thing for their egos to understand. But I think that you guys that are listening to this are smarter than the rest. I think that you guys are, you're smarter than the average bear. Another realization that you could have when you start to branch out outside of magic and you start to figure other things to get your time invested in is that virginity exists in absolutely everything. Now, I use the term virgin a lot. I use it almost on a day-to-day basis. I use it to describe myself. And what I use it to have as a definition is pretty much anyone or anything that cares too much about a particular thing. So magic virginity is just meaning that you care too much about magic. Yes, you should care about your art. You should give it the respect and the love and the dedication and the appreciation that it deserves. But at the same time, there's a limit. There's a fucking limit. And a lot of people don't see that limit. You go to a magic convention and there's a guy, cleaning a chop cup in a pizza shop across the street, looking at the waitresses, eyeballing them in the hopes that one of them asks him, hey, what are you doing? So that he could go, let me show you, and get into his chop cup routine. Don't be that guy. All right? Nobody wants to be that guy. However, what you want to be is you want to be the guy that has a wide portfolio of things that you are into. Get into, cigars, get into working out, get into maybe photography. That could go hand in hand with your magic videography. Get into other things. And once you realize that you get into other things, you see the virginity in those individual tasks or those individual hobbies or whatever that entails. You see the virginity. You see people that are only adamant about certain aspects of working out and every other thing is incorrect. And you start to see that the virginity spreads far and wide beyond magic. And it gives you a little bit of appreciation for magic. It gives you a little bit of an understanding as to the fact that this is just human traits. That when we have these magicians that are obsessed with their own methods, it's because we are all fundamentally human and all fundamentally flawed. So my advice is to get into other things, get into other hobbies, get into other arts, and you're going to see that that's going to improve you as a person. Here's a little bit of a mathematical equation that I find somewhat interesting. Improving your magic does not improve you as a person. It doesn't improve you as a human. But improving yourself as a human improves your magic. Who would have thunk it? It's a nice little bit of an equation there. You could call it a transitive property, if you would. Actually, a non-transitive property, because it doesn't translate the other way. But as a person, if you improve yourself when it comes to conversations and approaching people and talking to people without ever having to take out your deck of cards or your coins, you're going to see that that's going to improve your magic. But if you just focus on improving your magic, you're only going to suffer as an individual. I think that's a good way to wrap this one up. I'm going to talk in the future episodes about individual things, maybe stories in the magic community, things that I hear. Little bits of, I like chisme. Chisme. It's pronounced chisme, but it means gossip. I love to gossip. So why not use this as a nice platform to gossip? Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one. I'll see you in the next one.